Okay, let's talk about generational trauma. Generational trauma is a terminology that has been around for a while, but it has become far more discussed and studied. One of the main areas of where it first came from was during World War II, and of course, the just egregious atrocities that happened to the Jewish people and the other individuals that were persecuted by the Nazis. And so what they found was that mothers who were pregnant during the Holocaust or during this persecution of the Jews and the other individuals that the Nazis had persecuted, those mothers who were pregnant with babies during that time, the children came out with a far likely propensity for developing post-traumatic stress disorder. Because, and there is a lot of science to back this up as well, but whether it's what the mother is eating or what the mother is physically experiencing, all of it can impact the baby. And we are learning much more as it relates to the study of epigenetics and some of the different ways that this can impact the way that genes are expressed, okay? But the long and the short of it is generational trauma can be quite literally passed down, not only from, the environment. My mother was raised in chaos or was exposed to chaos, and then she is going to parent me, or my father, whoever the caretaker is, grew up in chaos. During the childhood process, there was a lot of chaos going on within the household. And then that makes individuals far more susceptible to developing post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as a myriad of other health disorders. And so what I want to talk about here for generational trauma is not so much as it relates to the physical passing down of genes or some of this other stuff, but generational trauma as it relates to learned communication and behavior patterns. So if we grew up in a household where it was not safe to express emotions of feeling afraid, later on in life, in those situations where we either could be afraid or maybe to some extent should be afraid, we may really start to guard ourselves up because we never learned how to say, I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. Why? Because our parents never learned how, our caretakers never learned how, or they actually directly said that behavior was not acceptable. Now, we can imagine, as it relates to the title of the book, Big Boys Do Cry, how often in the work that I do with men, they struggle to cry because all growing up it was said, big boys don't cry, Johnny. No, you can't cry. No, don't express those emotions. This becomes very deleterious to our ability later in life to be able to access emotions and sometimes to even be able to identify with them at all. And so, if there's a man that comes to me and says, boy, I'm really struggling to experience the wide range of emotions, I'm just kind of stuck, pigeonholed in these few couple of emotions. Well, it's very likely that as a child, you never learned how to identify these thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Or you were taught that to have them made you weak. And so when we speak about generational trauma, really what I want to focus on in the book is speaking about this sense of, if I never learned it, how could I ever expect myself to display it later on in life? What I say in my work with the individuals in my counseling practice is, if you grew up not learning Spanish, if Spanish was not spoken in your household, would you beat yourself up that you can't speak Spanish as an adult? Probably not, right? Because you never learned it as a kid. If I grew up in Russia, I'd probably know how to speak Russian, but I didn't grow up in Russia. I grew up in the United States of America. But I don't beat myself up because I can't speak Russian. Now, I know that's kind of a little bit of an exaggerated example, but what it really boils down to is this. If I never learned how to express my emotions growing up, if I never allowed myself to feel these emotions growing up, or be made to feel that having them was okay, it's going to become much more difficult to do that really at all in my life later. Now, that's not a get out of jail free card, but what it is an invitation to dig deeper, to go to counseling, to read books, to watch videos on YouTube, and to learn more about how to connect in with our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and then how to express those in a healthy and effective way. And so in Big Boys Do Cry, that's a big focus of what we're talking about here, is really learning how to identify those thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and then communicate them in a healthy and effective way, and to realize it's okay that that never happened for us in our childhood. It's not okay to keep it going because now we're aware of it, right? If you're reading this book or watching this video, you're here for some reason, some level of awareness that you want to make improvements in that. And I'm still making improvements in it myself. It's an ongoing process. But that's the first step, right? Is to realize, wow, maybe I didn't learn some of this stuff. Maybe that isn't my fault. And I can allow myself to hit the reset button and to start fresh. And to say to my spouse, right? To say to my partner, hey, I know I haven't been doing such a good job with this, but I'm taking steps towards learning. And I ask for your grace as I go through the process of learning how to express my thoughts, feelings, and emotions, because for so long, I was made to believe it wasn't okay to even have them.